So it's not Halloween anymore, but people went crazy about this on TikTok. And so I just have to put this DIY out now. And I'm just a little bit spooky. So I think I'm going to have some of these DIYs all year long because I have a little bit of a dark soul. Also just really good Halloween decor ideas. Hi friends, welcome back. If you are new here, I'm Brooke and I do videos on thrifting, thrift flips, DIYs, home decor, holidays, and this week I've got a really good one for you. I'm going to show you how I made this Headless Horseman candelabra out of a Ken doll and a toy horse. Can it be done? Yes, of course, because I did it, and I'm going to show you how. I thrifted this toy horse. It took me so long to find one. I had this idea last year and then I just couldn't find a toy horse that was simple or the right size. I found one this year, and so the first thing I did was cut off all of its beautiful hair and just got it, bare bones. So then you are going to behead your Ken doll. This one was a little bit tricky to get off. He had a good head on his shoulders. Go ahead and position him on the horse and hot glue all of those joints. This guy was really great because he had moving armature thingamabobs. I don't know how to explain this. He had mobile arms. So I was able to kind of really get him in a great position, and I put hot glue in every single joint he had. Then on top of that, you are going to paper mache. So I did this for a couple reasons. One, I am going to sculpt on top of it, and so I really need a good base that the paper clay will stick to. Paper clay is kind of like a paper mache pulp, so it sticks to anything that's porous, dry, like terracotta pots, obviously paper mache. And the other reason that I am paper macheing him is because I want this to be a little bit more structurally sound. And I think just the hot glue alone wouldn't have really lasted over time. That's just to kind of get him to sit in place. But the paper mache is going to kind of create this solid statue structure, and that will just be, better. It'll be better. Every time I place a piece down, I'm kind of sculpting it onto the figure. So get in those nooks and crannies and push it into the ears and make sure the eyes are still kind of visible so your piece still has dimension. The next day, when your piece is firm and solid and dry, you can start sculpting. And really there's nothing I can really say. I think I'm just gonna let you watch this because it's so easy. I feel like sometimes people get intimidated doing artistic things like sculpting, but if you go a little bit at a time and just build on, it's really easy. So I'm just gonna let you watch. I built on some boots, I built on a cape. All of this is in paper clay, so enjoy. The pumpkins are a little bit more in depth, so I'm going to kind of cover this and walk you through it. But basically, I sculpted some tinfoil into the shape of a pumpkin, gave it some ridges, made it like a rough shape. And I didn't want these to be perfect. I wanted them to kind of look, I wanted the whole thing to look like it was carved out of wood, but also just like kind of imperfect. And I don't know, I feel like that gives it like a spooky quality. Don't worry about making like a perfect pumpkin unless that's your jam, then do whatever you want. But this is what I did. Then I rolled out some clay and kind of just layered it over the top of that pumpkin and kind of sculpted it into those grooves that I already made. And that's basically it. I'm going to let you watch the rest of this process too, because I feel like at this point it's pretty self-explanatory, but yeah, it's really not as hard as it looks. So I didn't get this part on camera, but I did wait for it to dry slightly. Sometimes when they're like almost dry but not quite, it's a good time to like cut things out of them. So that's when I carved my jack-o'-lantern. And I only did that on the one that he's holding up, this guy right here, which is now covered in wax, which I think looks really cool. And I just took an X-Acto knife and cut out these little shapes. And I think doing this when the clay is wet and fresh would just be too hard, and it would be really difficult to get those little details without like smashing the rest of the face. Does that make sense? One important thing to note when you are sculpting the pumpkin is to make sure that it fits the candle. So just keep on putting that candlestick into your pumpkin and make sure that it still fits, and it will dry, like shrink a little bit when it dries. So take that into account. I left a little bit of wiggle room. If all else fails, you can go in when it's dry and kind of cut out pieces. Paper clay is just very easy to work with. So this is why I love it. Once everything is dry, you can glue your pumpkins onto your Headless Horseman. And then once that is dry, This is where it gets a little tricky. Okay, it's not tricky, it's just the way that I did it is inefficient. So I thought I was going to be able to just spray paint this whole thing and it would look stunning, but that was not the case. When I spray painted it, I realized that it looked like paper mache. You could see the lines of the paper where the edges weren't quite pressed down. So I ended up having to go in with some clay and just smooth out all of those seams that you could see. I didn't have to cover the whole thing, but I did cover a significant portion. But that just also makes it a little bit more structurally sound, so it's fine. I was originally going to paint this white, but then I realized that black would be, one, more forgiving for imperfections, and two, just looked so much better. So I went in with Martha Stewart's acrylic paint in Beetle Black. It's my favorite black paint. It's so dark and it just looked so good. I was so excited, but I was bummed that you couldn't see the jack-o'-lantern's face, and I just felt like it was like a little bit flat. So I went in with some rub and buff and just turned all the pumpkins gold, figuring that I could like paint it back to black if I didn't like it. And I loved it. You guys, I loved it. It looks so good, especially like when it's all covered in black drippy wax and like, look at that one. Look at that one. It's just so good. I'm really proud of this, you guys. I came up with this in my own brain, and I just think that it's one of the best things that I've done. It's some of my best work. If you make your own Headless Horseman candelabra, be sure to tag me on social media. I would love to see your creations. I will put all of my handles below. And until next time, stay spooky, and I'll see you soon. Bye.